asshole.
You're kidding. Just one shot?
They're not all zombies, Doug. How do you fight this thing?
Maybe we could drown it in A1 sauce.
Well, sometimes that is better. The person you put up there ain't the person that comes back.
It's a dance song to get down with. About 6 feet under. Get down.
Ooh, I love this song. I'm hung up in a grave situation.
And now we come to the thrilling final episode of our radio drama.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Rotten Views podcast. Hope you guys are all doing well today. This one's coming out after Christmas. We are in the midst, we're a couple days before Christmas during the recording of this one. And here in Canada, we are already getting hit with a little bit of a snowstorm. So that's fun. It's to the point where they've already canceled school for tomorrow, which is a Friday. So I guess I'm going to be staying home to do a lot of editing and artwork. So that's some fun stuff that's going to be hitting. That stuff's going to be out before this podcast even hits, just because I've already recorded 2 podcasts for this week. So episode 120 and 121, which is this one, are both recorded in the same week and edited and up and preloaded and all that fun crap. We got a fun one for you. It was a decent one, I should say. Today we're going to be talking about The Mixed Nuts from 1994 for an hour and 37 minutes. It's a PG-13 movie. It's got an IMDb rating of 5.4 out of 10. And let's see, do we have any other ratings here? 13% on Rotten Tomatoes, 2.5 out of 5 on Letterboxd. You obviously can rent it on Amazon Prime for $4 and Apple TV for $5. So obviously Amazon Prime's the cheaper way to go. It's not a bad movie. It's a dark comedy, but yeah, we'll get into that a little bit more in a few minutes here. I just want to say thank you to everyone who's been listening to the podcast, for sharing, doing reviews, leaving comments and whatnot. I appreciate everything. I see the numbers still growing, and I appreciate that so much. It means a lot to me. I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of tired. Been a long day. Been up since about like 5 o'clock. It's going on just 9 right now, so I'm hopefully going to get this recorded and do some YouTube videos and get that stuff recorded as well. Probably won't do any editing, but I will probably be staying up late to do some artwork and getting some crafts ready because I'm home with the kid tomorrow. I'm sure we'll probably be playing out in the snow for most of the day anyways, because she just likes playing in the snow. She's a kid, you know how it is, fellow parents and soon to be parents, and everyone else in between. But my plan is to use this other day off. I actually have Boxing Day off as well, so I'm hopefully going to be able to invest some time into getting some content already pre-set up and get some extra artwork out, because right now I'm behind the ball on the artwork side of things because I want to do some more anime and start some comic book stuff. So hopefully I'll be able to get some of that stuff up. I want to try and get some more videos up and ready for that as well. That's my game plan, as at least. It might not work out like I have it planned in my head, but we're going to do our best and hopefully it will work out that way. But like I said, sometimes things don't always work out the way you want them to, so you just gotta throw an edit on the fly and hope for the best. But yeah, quick rundown of this movie. I'm going to read it right off of Google because the rundown or the plot on IMDb synopsis is just the events focus around a crisis hotline business on one crazy night during the Christmas holidays. That's literally all it says on IMDb. Somebody could have put in a little bit better effort on that one, but oh well. The Google section though, Philip manages a suicide prevention hotline called Lifesavers, assisted by Miss Munchnick, I think is her name, proper way to pronounce it, and Catherine. On Christmas Eve, Philip learns that their landlord, Stanley, is evicting them from their office. Amid all the unrest, Catherine proclaims her love for Philip, and when a transvestite and a pregnant woman enter into the equation, things get even more interesting. This movie, for some reason, I don't know why, but it's got a budget of 20 million American dollars. I don't know why it says USD at the end. I felt like I needed to say it because it was already there, but $20 million for this movie in 1994. I don't know where the budget goes. I really don't. I honestly don't know. But yeah, it came out December 21st in 1994, directed by Nora Ephron. Maybe that's how you say it. But yeah, she's well known for being the writer of When Harry Met Sally, the 2005 Bewitched, and You Got Mail. And I don't know anything else that she's done. I didn't look into it at all. But it's adapted from the short story or novel Santa Claus is a Stinker, which I don't know how that goes together, but I don't read that much, so we're not going to look that up at all. The tagline of this movie, because it's very clever, a comedy on the edge. I guess because it's a suicide hotline, you gotta put that in there, I guess. Apparently there's a goof. Felix, will know his character a little bit later, slips the suspender onto his left arm. Then again, when the shot changes, when he puts the Santa suit back on in the bathroom. That's the kind of details we got on IMDb. The IMDb's hitting you with the hard facts. Hard trivia goose facts. The IMDb, you really suck for this movie. I understand not a lot of people have probably watched it because it doesn't seem like a super popular movie, but that kind of sucked. I should have probably pre-read that one beforehand. But we're just going to leave it in for a little bit of comedy's sake. And we're just going to get right into the movie because why not? Because we're just killing time, even though my podcasts are always pretty short in comparison to some of the other ones I listen to. But hopefully you guys enjoy the timeline, I guess, or the run time, I should say, of my podcast. Anyways, we're getting right into the movie.
Hello, this is Lifesavers. Merry Christmas. How may I help you?
I have only 2 months to live.
I'm so sorry, sir. Everyone at Lifesavers is with you.
May I speak to a woman?
Hello, Merry Christmas, if it's all right to say that.
What's your name?
Catherine?
I want to ravish you like a wild animal.
Now stop it right this minute. We can't have that sort of thing. Philip's job is solving other people's problems. May I put you on hold while I run to my desk? You're not calling from a bridge or holding a weapon?
No.
Good. But unfortunately, he's got problems of his own.
I don't know how to say this. My psychiatrist thinks we should break up.
I didn't know you were going to a psychiatrist.
Well, I'm not actually going to one. I've been dating one for 4 months.
And now it's Christmas. Can we show a little Christmas spirit around here?
Merry Christmas!
Somebody's not in the holiday mood, I guess.
A time when the lonely
If you think your husband is having an affair, he is.
feel most alone.
Static again. Hello, hello?
I can't hear you.
Try clicking the little button. I'm having a problem hearing you.
Look, I'm at the end of my rope, and I want to die.
Click it, please. Go ahead.
I'm very lonely tonight. Is there any chance I could stop by and talk?
Well, if you were willing to make a small donation, say perhaps $5,000.
I'm kidding. I came right over. Do you have music?
I'm not like you, Philip. I'm not one of those people who's only good on the phone.
In my line of work, I deal with all kinds of people. None of them are what you might call conventional. Dancing with you makes me feel all fluffy.
Philip?
TriStar Pictures presents.
I wish there were someone I cared for who cared for me.
Are you a professional ukulele player?
Oh, no, I'm a writer.
What do you write?
T-shirts.
Steve Martin.
My heart is racing, and I'm feeling all nervous and sick.
That's the way I felt since the day I met you.
I wrote Save the Dolphins.
In the new comedy from the director of Sleepless in Seattle.
Catherine was very distressed, so naturally I had to comfort her.
Mixed Nuts.
Hello, Lifesavers. May I help you?
May I speak to a woman?
You are speaking to a woman.
It starts out as a TriStar picture. Movie intro credits roll right into White Christmas playing, and we see Philip Steve Martin riding his bike through the town, a town that's celebrating Christmas but doesn't have any snow, which I always think is a weird concept for me. But then again, I'm Canadian, so I know not everyone gets snow. But it's based in LA, so of course they don't have any snow. But he's riding down the beach, and he passes by a candy cane, like a guy who's in a candy cane suit, passed out on a bench. Then he's also passing by a snowman that's made out of sand. And then we see this couple who are rollerblading. I don't know why that was so hard for me almost to say, but they're rollerblading down the street, and the wife has one end of the tree and the husband has the other end of the Christmas tree, and that's how they're like transporting it back to their home. Then we see this guy in a Santa suit, who is Felix, running from a store as this girl is chasing him, which is his girlfriend Gracie. She's pregnant. He crashes into the couple, wrecking their tree, and then a fight ensues between the both of them. And then, of course, we find out Gracie is pregnant at this point in time, and Philip, Steve Martin's character, shows up to fix the situation, but he only makes things worse, and everyone keeps fighting. And then I think Felix starts running away, and then the rollerblade couple kind of take after him. And then, of course, Gracie's all pissed off because the whole situation that's going on, and she's pissed off at Felix because Felix took her Santa suit, and she wanted to make money and try and sell that Santa suit. And then we see Gracie go back into her store, and she's trying to call the Lifesavers service, which is the suicide hotline, the basic premise and story behind this movie. And then we cut to this other girl who's answering the phone for the Lifesavers hotline. We find out her name is Catherine. She tells the people on the line that she apparently tells them too much. Munchnik or whatever her name is, Marchik or whatever the other girl is another worker in the hotline service. Munchnik. That's such a stupid freaking name to say. I hate it. But anyways, we're going with it. There's two ladies that answer the phone. One's Munchnik and one's Catherine. Munchnik always speaks up to Catherine because apparently Catherine tells the people on the line too much about her personal life, and they're not supposed to. They're just supposed to keep it cut and dry. Help them with the situation if you can. Hope for the best and go from there. But yeah, the thing that Catherine says to the person that called them is that she still lives with her mother, and she's like in her mid-30s. She's like, it's okay to still live with your mother. It's fine. It's not that big of a deal. Then we find Philip is like the main guy who works at the suicide hotline, and they're wondering where Philip is because he hasn't made it back to work yet or arrived to work to begin with. He also has the Christmas tree that the rollerblade couple was using that they said was no good anymore. But Munchnik thinks that Philip is not there because he's fooling around with other girls, and apparently Philip's in a relationship, but he's not really in a relationship because we find out later on that he actually got dumped by his girlfriend. But Munchnik also thinks that men will fuck anything to the point where they'll even fuck a tree because we're that horny. We'll do a tree. That's no slivers. That doesn't sound appealing at all. Then we see Philip showing up to his building where the business is set up, and we see Stanley handing out paperwork, and he hands Philip the paperwork and says Merry Christmas to him, and it's actually an eviction notice, and they have I think to the new year to get out, or maybe the second month of the new year. I'm not too sure. But they're 3 months behind in rent, and pretty much this guy Stanley's kicking everyone out in the building, we find out later on. And Philip tries to, talk to him. He's like, come on, just, work with me here. I'm in a business that doesn't really pay too much. The government's taking away the loans and folding back on things, and I'm just in a hard time right now. If you could just give me a little bit more time. Stanley's like, nah, I'm the landlord. I don't care. You get the fuck out. Give me my money or get the fuck out. You're $5,000 behind in 3 months. So either you give me my money or you get out. Anyways, Philip finally makes it to the top of the building that they work in with a Christmas tree, still riding his bicycle as well. And then Catherine's like, Philip says something about how it's the worst day of his life so far. And Catherine's like, well, it's not too bad. At least we're not getting evicted or anything. And that's when Munchik or whatever goes on about how everyone else in the building who has offices they all got an eviction notice, and she finds it funny that they're the only ones that haven't got an eviction notice yet. Munchnik isn't happy with the Christmas gift that Philip got her because apparently last year she got him a fruitcake, and it's pretty much the exact same fruitcake that he got her, and she's like, you just regifted the goddamn thing. You didn't put any effort into it whatsoever. And we find out Munchnik is leaving work because she's going to her dead husband's sister's house to visit their family for Christmas, I think is the way that worked out. But she's going to use the elevator down because she doesn't want to use stairs because she's lazy. And then, of course, the elevator gets trapped in between floors, which I thought at this point in time, maybe she's going to be stuck there for the whole movie, which I would have been fine with. She's pretty funny. It's Madeline Kahn, I think, is how you pronounce her last name. She's a very funny actress. I'm not sure what else I know I remember her from now. Elizabeth from Young Frankenstein. That makes sense now. That's why I thought she looked familiar. I'm a dork. Can't believe I forgot. I keep saying one of these days I'll probably do my research for everything ahead of time, but I really don't. I do it on the fly because I got a laptop right in front of me, so might as well just do it while I'm doing this, right? And edit everything out that sounds horrible, or kind of edit it out. But anyways, after she's trapped in the elevator, we then cut to Felix in his Santa suit from her, who's showing back up to his girlfriend's shop. Gracie answers the door with the gun in hand because apparently she owns a gun because there's the Seaside Strangler or something. I forgot the technical term. I wrote it down my notes later, but there's this guy going around killing beautiful women, and she thinks she's going to be a target. But anyways, he goes on about how he's sorry and how he's wearing the Santa suit because she went crazy and apparently cut up all his clothing. So now he doesn't own a single piece of clothing other than the Santa suit, which he actually took from her, and he thinks it's his because, you know, he's got nothing else to wear, so he doesn't want to be naked. But now that he's came back, he's got a piece of paper to show her, and apparently if they claim they are broke and are never going to have any money, they can actually go to the hospital and give birth for free. Then she mentions she's not happy with him because he's a loser, and she wants to be with a businessman because she wants her baby to have money. We find out their actual full names, like Gracie and Felix, and apparently Felix is a wall artist is what he calls himself, and that he's still waiting for his perfect wall so he can do his perfect mural, and that's going to make him famous. But anyways, we then cut to Philip asking for a loan over the phone to his loan officer, and we find out, I don't know if they're dating or hooking up, but she's like, I've been seeing a psychiatrist, and he's like, I didn't know you were seeing a psychiatrist. And, well, yeah, we've been dating for a few weeks now, but he said I should break up with you. And then she just hangs up the phone on him. Philip goes to sit at his desk and completely misses the chair altogether, and then the phone rings, and Catherine answers it, and it's a guy in a payphone booth with a gun to his head, and she's going on about how she hears a static and that he needs to press the button to call back again to clear the static out, and then we hear the gun click, and then we hear a gunshot, and she's like, oh, it's just dead air again, they must have hung up on me. She's a dit, but oh well. And then we cut and see Adam Sandler in the movie, which is crazy. He's got like a good supporting actor role in it. He's playing Louis, but Mrs. Munchuk or whatever is trying to get his attention and call down to him for help because she's still stuck in the elevator, but he's got his headphones in, so he's not listening or hearing her at all. And then once he goes into his apartment, he slams the door and puts on Alvin and the Chipmunks Christmas and just has it blasting. And then we see Catherine stuck in Christmas lights as she's getting ready to put them up on the tree, and then the phone starts ringing, and Philip's like, I'll answer it, but he's writing down his notepad all this, like the time and the date and which line it is. Taking forever to answer the phone, where the person might just kill herself because they're waiting too fucking long to answer the goddamn phone for a suicide hotline. But anyways, the person on the phone is saying how long he is, how he wants to come in person to talk because he just needs to see another person. He starts to cry over the phone. Then Philip breaks down and does the number one rule that you're not supposed to do. He gives out the address for the fucking hotline service, and Catherine's like, oh, you did it now. You're bad. Then we see who was on the phone, and they go, in the description it says the transvestite. It's Chris. She's leaving her room, and the family's ignoring her, and they're like, Chris, where are you going? You gotta hang up some tinseltoe, Arnold Schwarzenegger. And apparently that's the dad's name for calling Chris, because Chris is, you know, pretty built cross-dresser. But yeah, it really upsets them, and they leave crying. We then cut to Miss Munchuk still stuck in the elevator playing with this kid's music toy. There's like a microphone and like a keyboard, and she's just like singing her own songs. I might try and get a voice clip of it, but I'm not sure if I can find it, but we'll see. Now Philip is stressing out because he gave out the address, and he's worried that he gave out the address to the Seaside Strangler. I knew I had that in my notes somewhere, but this is apparently a person who's going around killing all these beautiful women. And he's like, I'm a guy, what do I have to worry about? Then someone else called saying how it's his last Christmas and he only has 2 months left to live. He wants to talk to a woman because he really loves women. Catherine says Merry Christmas to him, and then he talks about wanting to stick it to her and stuff to her, and then like, I don't know if he's talking about killing her or doing the dirty with her. I'm not really too sure. It was really quick, but then she gets all flustered and hangs up on him. Then a neighbor knocks on the door saying, it's the dog walker neighbor saying, hey, the dog hater is stuck in the elevator. And he's like, I'm a mechanic, but I ain't gonna help her get out of there. Apparently Munchuk or whatever her name is, God, I hate that name, is stuck in the elevator, and she doesn't like dogs, so she can stay in the elevator for all I care. And then Gracie, the shop owner, is calling from a payphone on the side of the beach. Catherine picks up, and Gracie is asking to be able to spend the night with her. And she's going on about how Felix went crazy, and she doesn't want to be home with him, with the baby and everything on the way soon. Philip is looking for a screwdriver to fix the elevator, and then Gracie starts to run away and drops the payphone because Felix is coming down the beach at her in his Santa suit running, talking to her as they run down the beach, you know, saying how he's sorry and everything. And then the rollerblade couple come up between them actually as they're both running, and they have another Christmas tree, and somehow Felix like trips the guy on the end, and they wreck another Christmas tree, which is a running gag in this movie. Then the phone rings again, and the lady on the line was upset because she was in the 10 items or less line in the supermarket, and then she's feeling this self-doubt as she's talking to Catherine because she feels like she's going to always be stuck in the 10 items or less aisle in the supermarket, like the cash out. I don't know why that's an issue. I guess maybe that's a money issue that she's trying to get at. I don't know. But then Catherine freaks out and starts crying and runs to the bathroom and hides in the bathtub of all things. And then Philip has to take over the phone call, and he's telling her about pothole, and that in every pothole there is hope if you take out the right letters and rearrange everything. And then we find out that's the thing that his father told him, like the last day that he was alive, because the next day he was run over by a truck full of mixed nut, and there's the title of the movie. Clever, I guess. Not really. And then Philip gives Catherine her gift, and then starts to freak out because the eviction notice is stuck on the back of her gift. And he's trying to get it, but she's like, I know, I keep Christmas wrapping paper. And then they have a fight, and then she grabs it, and then she starts to freak out over the situation because she's like, oh, I'm not going to have a job now. I live with my mother. I don't have anything. I don't have anyone to love me, and I'm just going to be jobless. Then they get the idea to have Philip chain himself to some trees that are going to be chopped down to raise money. And then we hear, hey, dickhead, because apparently they forgot that Miss Munchuk was still stuck in the elevator, and she's not too happy about that whole situation. Then we see Philip trying to pull Munchuk out of the elevator through the roof, but then Gracie's at the bottom of the elevator shaft, and she presses the button, and the elevator goes down. And she gets back in and goes up, but they start freaking out because they think they're going to be crushed by the elevator. And then we hear Felix running up the stairs because it's one of those open elevator concepts, and he's trying to talk to her, and she feels like she's hearing someone else's voice, and they're trying to tell her to stop at floor 3 or 4 so they don't get crushed. But it goes all the way up, and they don't get crushed though. There's enough space. Then they all get off the elevator, and Gracie goes in the office and slams the door on them. And then Felix is trying to get in, but he's taking off his Santa suit to try and say sorry to her. And then Munchuk is trying to get in because she's screaming because she has to go to the washroom really badly. And then Gracie hides in the washroom. She's not actually hiding, but she's just looking at herself in the mirror and like looking at her tummy. And then Munchuk's pounding on the doors to try and get in to go to the washroom because she really has to go. And Gracie finally opens the door and is like, oh, you're being kind of weird about wanting in the washroom so badly. Then everyone else pours into the washroom, and Philip's like, you know these people, Catherine? And she's like, yeah, they're my friends. And he gives her like a confused look. And then this whole time Munchuk has a towel across her as she's peeing in the toilet, just like, hi, I'm Catherine. Or, hi, I'm Munchuk. Then Felix mentions how they met when they crashed into the tree, and then Philip's like, no, I didn't crash into the couple with the tree. You crashed into the couple with the tree. Phil's like, yeah, well, we still met. It's still the same thing. It was around the Christmas tree. And then we find out Munchuk's like, oh, you're going to drop anytime soon to Gracie. And she's like, no, I still got a little bit of time. He's like, no, you're looking pretty big. You're going to drop soon. And then we find out Felix just got out of prison 7 months ago, so then he starts accusing Gracie of cheating on him. And then she smacks him in the head with a fruitcake that's in a tin can and knocks him out, and blood starts pouring out of his head a little bit. And then Catherine's trying to mend to him. He's like, Philip needs to go get stitches, but Gracie's like, we can't afford them. So Philip's like, well, I can take him to my vet. He's a pretty good guy. And then Philip says Munchuk is going to need to stay because she needs to watch the phone lines. So Gracie stays with Munchuk, and Philip and Catherine take Felix to go to the vet. And he's like, oh, you're going to really like this vet. He's a really good guy. He put my dog down. He also is an expert on potbelly pigs. I don't know how that's going to help the situation out, but he put your dog down, so maybe you can put Felix down too, I guess. Then on the way down, they start to run into Louis, I think his name is, Adam Sandler's character, and he wants to give Catherine this personal Christmas gift, and he's singing as he's playing his ukulele. We can tell he either likes all girls or he has just a thing for Catherine. I'm not too sure, because later on in the movie, something happens. Then back in the office, Munchuk finds out they got eviction notice, and she's pissed because Philip hasn't told her, and she's very offended by it, and she's very pissed off. They show up to the vet, and the vet says he's in a rush and that Felix is bleeding from his head from a hit from a fruitcake. And the whole time the vet thinks Felix is a cat with a concussion, so he goes out and tells his date, who's waiting out in the back parking lot, that he's going to be a few minutes late. And she gets all pissed off because she's like, it's always the cats at work, always the cats at work that get attention. So then she speeds off. Then the three guys go on about their girl issues. He's like, first Felix was a cat, now Felix is a person. But anyways, the vet, Dr. Kinski, mentions how he's got these dog tranquilizers, and as he's talking to Philip, Felix actually takes the pills and must have took the whole bottle because he's just completely out of it now. And then Philip's like, how are you friends with these people? And then Catherine's like, well, I was at like this AA style meeting, and I was told it was good to meet men at AA meetings, and it's just all happened. And she's very upset because she feels like Philip is, judging her for the friends that she has because she doesn't have too many friends. Also, I'm just looking at the listing here. One of the rollerbladers is apparently Jon Stewart, which I thought was crazy, but there's little things that you don't notice. And then the creepy guy calls back on the phone, and Gracie picks up the phone to see who it is, and because she thinks it might be Felix dying in the hospital, and she gets pissed off because of the creep saying the things to her that he said to Catherine earlier on. And then Munchuk takes over the phone, and she goes on about how all, sad that the guy doesn't want her. And then the guy hangs up. He's like, yeah, I do this all the time. Then Gracie starts bugging Munchuk about the Seaside Strangler, and then the door buzzer goes off, and Munchuk tries to ask who it is, but they won't answer. The person who called earlier asking if they could come over, that she knows nothing about. And then the power goes out, and she's like, so was that you that did the power, or is this just this crappy old building? And then she's like, I'm not a beautiful young lady. Well, I'm beautiful, but I'm not young, so I'm not really your type. And then Gracie gets all pissed off, comes out of the washroom, and opens the door and smashes it in Munchuk's face. And then we find out it's Chris, who's all nervous. And once Chris comes in, they close the door. Munchuk is actually on the floor, knocked out, or maybe she faints from thinking it's the Seaside Strangler. I don't know, it's one of the two, but the door opens right in her face, essentially. Gracie then asks Chris if they can put Munchuk somewhere safe, because she's planning to go out. And then we hear the phone ringing, and Chris goes to try and answer the phone, but the power goes out. And then we hear her crashing through the office because she doesn't know where anything is. And then once the power comes back on, she's like poking her head up above the desk, all confused because she keeps tripping all over the place. Chris answers the phone, and it's a creep again. And then they ask to speak to a woman. Chris is like, you are speaking to a woman. And then they hang up on her. Then we see Philip coming back to the building with the power still off, of course. And it's dark, and he goes into the office and he calls out for Munchuk. And he's like, Chris says something about, no, it's me. And then the power comes back on, and Philip's very confused. He's like, who are you? And he's like, well, we talked on the phone earlier about coming over. Then they start talking on the couch, but they're on opposite ends. And Philip's a little bit freaked out by this whole situation. And then the power goes out again. When the power comes back on, Chris is almost on top of him. Then Philip gets up in a panic, and he starts lighting candles. He's like, just in case the power goes out again, I think it'd be nice if we have some candles lit, just in case the power does go out again, so we can see what we're doing. Then he offers Chris to come back in the new year, because, right now is not the perfect time to do any counseling right now, because there's a lot of other things going on at the point in time. Then Chris wants to dance with Philip, and we cut to the night time, and we see Gracie and Catherine out walking to Gracie's store, and Gracie is now giving Catherine a makeover for some reason, maybe to pick up her spirits, because she's pissed off at Philip because Philip's not very good at interactions in person. He's better on phone, but in person he kind of sucks. Then Gracie wishes she just had something, and then Catherine and Gracie make wishes together, and Catherine wishes someone was there to care for her and love her, and then Gracie wishes that her baby had a better life, and she's like, oh, be loved and whatnot, and she's like, no, money. I just want money. I want lots of money. Then we cut back to the office with some music playing, and Chris is doing the seductive looking look at Philip, and he's eyeing him down, and Philip's all nervous and doesn't want to dance at all. But then Chris pulls him in, and Philip's kind of dragging his feet because he doesn't want to get too close. And then Chris says how she feels all fluffy, like she's dancing on a cloud. And then as they are dancing, Munchuk slowly starts to wake up, and she's very confused as to what's going on. Then Munchuk says that she's suing Philip for improper office behavior and stupidness, and then she storms away from the office. Then Munchuk says how Catherine is devious, I believe, and how all she wants to do is rip off Philip's clothes. And Philip's like, my clothes? What are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about. And then Munchuk believes that Catherine and Philip were in a plan together the whole time, maybe to get Munchuk out of the picture. I'm not really too sure what she was going on about there, because they don't really build on that too much. We see Munchuk get into her car, but it won't start because the battery is completely dead. Then back in the office, Philip loses his cool on Chris, and she gets upset and leaves the office. As well, when she's walking down the street, she passes Gracie and Catherine, but she doesn't know who they are either. Then we see Louis talking to Munchuk outside, bugging her because the car broke down. He's like, well, when's the car people coming here? Soon. I was in the car club. Then they found out I didn't have a car, so they kicked me out of the car club. That's Sandler's character in this movie is just kind of stupid. It's fun, I guess, in a stupid, silly way. And then we see Catherine and Gracie come back, and they talk to Louis, and then Louis asks if he can come up because they all decide to have Chinese food together, and they're taking it back to the office upstairs. And then once they get inside, Philip's like, Catherine, is that you? And he looks up at her, and she's in a dress and got makeup and everything on, and she's like, whoa, what happened to you? But Catherine doesn't really want anything to do with him at this point in time, because Munchuk said that Philip was up there with another girl, fooling around. That upset her even more. Then we cut to Felix still in his Santa suit, waking up in the hospital, I should say. I almost jumped ahead of myself a little bit, but he's waking up in the hospital, and he's looking around, and then as these nurses are going by him with a stretcher, he runs out of the hospital. He runs to Gracie's shop, and he's grabbing the gun out like a cookie jar by the looks of it. Then we cut to Louis singing in this old-timey waiter outfit, and he's singing the whole time everyone's eating the Chinese food, but he's singing just directly to Catherine and making the song all about her. While Louis is singing the song, we can see Philip's getting a little bit pissed off and annoyed at the song, song, and suddenly he stops because he's like, I don't have anything else. I just wrote it longhand and I don't know how to finish the song. Philip gets annoyed because he sees the fruitcake and he's like, you know what? I try to be nice. I try to give this gift. So then he just chucks it out of the window because he's pissed off, and it actually crashes through Munchuk's windshield, and she breaks down outside the car looking at it, crying. And then the dog walker shows up and sees her crying. He feels bad, and then he says this line that her dead husband used to always say. So then she pretty much jumps on him, and then they run down to the beach to get it on in the sand as the dogs are howling and barking. Then Catherine is telling Philip how it was bad for him to throw the cake out the window because someone could have got seriously injured, and that was very bad of him controlling his anger issues. Then the phone rings and Chris storms into the office because he forgot his cape thingy that he has for his outfit, and then everyone's kind of shocked because, you know, he just barges in because he's all upset. And then as he's getting ready to leave, because he's like, you know what, I just don't want to deal with you guys. As he's getting ready to leave, Felix is holding the gun at the front door. He's like, oh, the situation just got awkward. Philip thinks that Felix just has a toy gun, and Felix is like, no, it's not a toy gun. Points it up in the ceiling and shoots it, and it goes off and destroys some of the ceiling, and then everyone starts freaking out. So Felix asks who wants to be shot first, and then they all get in like a line and start backing up throughout the office together. Chris tries to talk Felix down and make him, you know, put the gun down and calm down and relax, but he won't. Then Chris hits him with his purse, and like foam goes out everywhere, and he tries to wrestle the gun out of Felix's hand, and that's when Chris gets shot in the foot and starts screaming. Then Gracie takes the gun and takes the gun away from Felix. He's like, you know, you gotta empty it, and starts shooting it everywhere. Then Philip takes the gun from her because he's like, you gotta calm down, you're shooting everything. And then we hear the buzzer on the door going off, and Philip's looking at the door all confused, and we see a gunshot hole going right through the door. He goes over to open the door, and it's actually the landlord Stanley with his finger on the buzzer, and he's dead because he got shot right through the heart, and he falls into the apartment. Philip realizes he's got the murder weapon in his hand, so he kind of tries to wipe it off on his jacket, and then he puts it back in Gracie's hand and makes her grip it a little bit, and then he grabs it by the end and puts it down somewhere. He's like, I want to make sure your prints are the last thing on this gun. Then Philip says they need to call the cops, and then Louis is like, yeah, the number is 911 just in case you want the number for the cop. Then Catherine starts to freak out and says she can't breathe, so Philip picks her up and takes her to the washroom to try and calm her down and relax her, to give her a hot bath and whatnot. Which this bath looks really hot because of the amount of steam and smoke coming off of it. I would never want to get in the bath that hot because I feel like my skin would burn off. Louis goes to take care of Chris, who's in the other room. He takes off her boot, and he's looking at it. He's like, looks like it barely even scratched you. It just looks like it kind of nicked your pinky toe, your baby toe there, you know? It looks like it just nicked it there. You know? I don't even think you need it. I think you're overreacting, you know, because Chris the whole time is acting like the world's end. He's like, I'm going to bleed to death. I'm going to get gangrene. I'm just going to die. I'm just going to die here. I'm just going to die here with some strangers. I don't know what I'm going to do. Anyways, Louis goes to get some pain pills. He's like, I'll get you some Advil. No, I'll go get you some Tylenol 3s. No, I'll go get you some Tylenol codeine. And then he mentions something else. And he's like, then I'm going to get some lozenges. But those are for me because I got a little bit of a tickle in the back of my throat. Anyways, as he's gone, Chris is still freaking out because he thinks he's going to die. He's screaming for Band-Aids. And then Philip's going to eventually grab the Band-Aids, but Chris is getting tired of waiting, so he gets up, and then he puts too much weight on his low toe, falls to the ground, gets back up though, and gets to the door. But as he's getting to the door, Philip opens the door with the Band-Aids and smashes him right in the face and breaks his nose. He starts freaking out because Chris is like, that's my best feature, now you broke it. Then the other door opens up because it's like a joint door, and Gracie's like, you're not going to call the cops, right, Philip? I can't go to jail. I can't have my baby born in jail. Please promise you're not going to, you know, call the cops. And he's like, I'm not going to call the cops. Just shut up. Anyways, he then goes back to Catherine. He's getting the bath ready, and he mentions how he's feeling funny, and she's like, yeah, I'm feeling kind of funny too. And then they mention about the first time they met, and he remembers her sweater was done up wrong because it was one side was higher than the other. And then they start making out right on the floor beside the bathtub. Hopefully they turn off the wire before it splashes everywhere, but you know, it is what it is. Then we see Louis and Chris getting a bit closer, and then Louis pretty much starts singing the same song he's sang to Catherine, but switches up a couple of lines to cheer her up, and she starts laughing and smiling. Then we cut to Gracie and Felix walking around Stanley's dead body, but Felix has Stanley's bloody jacket on him now. And then the doorbell goes off, and Gracie opens the door, and we find out it's actually Felix's ex-girlfriend or wife. I'm assuming girlfriend. And then Gracie's like, yeah, Philip's a little bit busy right now. He's in the bathtub naked with Catherine. Would you want to wait and see if you're next? And she's like, no, I'm good. Then Philip and Catherine come out, and they notice Stanley's body is gone. And Gracie and Felix had this idea. They took Stanley's dead body, put some burlap sacks around it, and then they cut off all the the Christmas tree branches and super glued it to the sacks to hide him in the Christmas tree. And then, yeah, the super glue is apparently the magical thing that makes the branches stick onto those burlap sacks. Felix then says he has a plan. He's like, our plan is to take the tree down to the boardwalk and leave it. And Philip's like, that's not a plan. The plan usually has more things. He's like, okay, plan A, take tree downstairs to boardwalk, then leave. That's a plan. See? Plan. And then Louis peeks his head in. He's like, what's going on, guys? He's like, well, they had the idea of taking the tree who has Stanley's dead body inside it down to the boardwalk. He's like, oh, that's a good idea. I'll help you with the plan. Then everyone gets together because they all wanted to do the plan. Then we see everyone singing as they're taking the dead landlord tree down to the boardwalk. And then we see Munchuk and the dog walker coming up for the sand. Like, what's going on? Where are you guys taking the tree? As the dogs are trying to sniff and bark at the tree. They're like, nowhere. We're just taking it down to the boardwalk. Yeah, just a new tree. Just getting rid of it. You know, donating it. And then Munchuk follows them as she's singing the Christmas songs. And then Gracie's like, yeah, like clearly fucked. That's why she's so happy. So apparently she's been grouchy the whole time because she hasn't gotten any in a long, long time. God knows how long her husband's dead. Then as they're walking down, they're coming head to head with a rollerblade couple who are like, we're gonna wreck your goddamn tree. We see you're doing the goddamn same thing we're doing, carrying the goddamn Christmas tree. And then to avoid them wrecking the Christmas tree, they throw it up in the air, but as it's coming down, all the branches start breaking off. And then once it hits the ground, Catherine looks, or not Catherine, I think it's Munchuk, notices the hand coming out of one of the burlap sacks. And then we see a crime scene gathering, and the officer's asking what happened. And the Munchuk speaks up saying that Stanley committed suicide because he was feeling bad about evicting everyone. And then Philip's like, no, that's not what happened. We're trying to hide the body because, you know, Felix decided to bring a gun over and accidentally shot it. And the cop's like, who's Felix? And he points over, and then Gracie pulls out the gun. It's like, this is the gun. And then Felix grabs the gun and starts running away, and then he climbs on top of the building and climbs up a tattoo sign. And on top of the building, he's standing on the roof with the gun pointed to his head. He's like, I can't let my wife go to jail because of this situation. And then Catherine tells Philip, you know, you need to help him out. You need to do your job. You need to be the suicide counselor and talk him off of this ledge. Philip then speaks up saying, you don't want to spend your first Christmas in jail when you could be spending it with your son, right? You want to spend this first Christmas with your child when they're born. You don't want to be in jail for it. And he starts talking him off the ledge, so to speak, and then Gracie tells Felix that she loves him, and he decides to come down. Then we see them all sitting on this long bench that we saw earlier in the movie with a bunch of angels on it, and they're waiting for a van to show up to take them all to the police station so they can get everything situated and figured out. Catherine gives this bag. She's like, this belonged to Stanley, to one of the cops, and they take it over to like the squad car, and they open it up, and then the cops come over to congratulate Gracie because apparently Gracie killed the Seaside Strangler, because inside that bag was like a bunch of fishing wire and the murder weapons and whatnot. And then another cop comes over, he's like, here's your $250,000 reward for catching the Seaside Strangler. And then Gracie says she's going to pay for the moving expenses for Philip. And then as they're celebrating, Gracie's water breaks, and of course the vet is in the crowd, and Philip's like, come over here, you know, she's going to give birth. And then the vet's like, well, go put her over by the Christmas tree. And she starts to give birth as the vet is there. He's like, well, I've done this lots of times. She's like, aren't you a vet? And he's like, well, you know, it's pretty much the same concept, just a little bit different, I guess. And then as she's giving birth, the camera angle pans up to the tree as we see the star shining. Then we hear the baby crying a bit, and then we see everyone looking on as Felix and Gracie are now parents. And Philip says Merry Christmas to everyone, and then gives Catherine a big kiss. And then Philip says for Christmas, the big wish that she was wanting and that he wants, that's going to be the big wish, is that he wants to marry Catherine. And then we pan out on everyone around the Christmas tree as they're celebrating, and then it cuts to the next day, and then we see on the next wall over, we see this giant Christmas mural on the wall that was done by Felix, and it's got everyone that was around the Christmas tree, and then it's got circles on top of each and every single character. And then the movie ends. It's a very strange movie for being a dark comedy. I feel like it could use more funny parts, to be honest with you. It's definitely different. I just don't know where that budget went to. I honestly don't. There's not a lot of special effects or anything, and there's not a lot of, like, sure, there's, I'm assuming it probably costs a lot to film on the beach, because there's that beginning scene at the beach, but a lot of it looks like it's just built up stages, so I'm not sure why it would cost so much. But then again, I'm not in movies, so I don't really know. But yeah, I feel like it could use a little bit more comedy. Some of the parts, it's very weird, to be honest with you, how all these characters come together, but I did enjoy it. I find it's an average movie. I don't want to say it's great, and I don't want to say it's horrible. So on that scale, on the rotten scale for the Christmas movies, I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10. I might revisit it again at some point in time, but it's not something I'm going to revisit anytime soon, just because, you know, I'm not a huge Steve Martin fan, but it's a pretty decent movie for what it was given. I think the concept could use a little bit more comedy. Like the guy in the pay booth who had the gun to his head. I thought that skit could have went on a little bit longer. He's a very funny actor. I forget what his name was, but I've seen him in various roles as well. But yeah, I thought it was decent. Not great, not horrible, just average, middle of the road. So yeah, 5 out of 10, which brings us to our next movie we're going to watch. I'm not sure if this is going to be a whole series for the month, but it might. I'm debating. I want to see what other movies are in this genre and go from there. But we're going to watch Fire in the Sky. It's a 1993 UFO movie, sci-fi mystery movie. So I don't know if I want to do like a month worth of UFO movies, or if I just want to do one movie and then just switch it up. But I'm going to look into some more UFO movies and see if I can find enough that I actually want to watch. I don't want to burn myself out on one subject matter that's not going to be super interesting, but we'll see. Because I know there's a couple TV shows I could probably maybe do an episode or two for, but I don't know how that would work with the whole thing that I'm doing. I think if I do a single TV episode, that should be like a mini episode, because that is something I thought about doing as well, is doing like taking a whole TV show and breaking down each episode. I thought would be fun, but we'll see how that goes. But yeah, so maybe next month to start out the new year, maybe we will do a whole month of UFO movies. Maybe we won't. I'm not too sure yet. Like I said, I do all this stuff kind of last minute on the fly, but maybe with this time off, I will plan everything out maybe for a couple months ahead of time. That way I have a plan and maybe come up with like special names for each series and whatnot, and maybe special artwork. But we'll see how it goes and we'll go from there. But yeah, Fire in the Skies, never seen it before. I know it's supposed to be one of the more popular UFO movies from what I've heard on my movie forums, so I'm definitely going to look forward to watching it. It looks interesting, and apparently it's based on a true story. I don't know how much about that is true, but you know, it's just one person's opinion of what they're thinking happened or what they might have claimed to happen, but it is what it is. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode. If you can, check out my links down below on Instagram, you know, YouTube, Facebook. YouTube being the big thing that I've been pushing lately, because I would like to get to 1,000 subscribers and then start making bigger videos that because once I get 1,000 subscribers, then I can do the YouTube fun thing and start making money for the videos I'm doing and the content and whatnot, which is always nice to have a little bit of extra flow coming in. It makes everything a little bit easier to put all this time in, because to be honest with you guys, it's pretty time consuming doing the podcast. With the watching the content, then you have the recording of the content, then you have the editing of the content, and then you have the promoting of the content. It does add up after a while. I'm not gonna lie, I don't know how a lot of these people do it. I know a lot of people send off their stuff to edit by someone else. I don't, because I'm cheap, and I'm just going to keep editing it myself because it's just easier that way. But finding the time sometimes is a little bit difficult. That's why some of these podcast episodes actually don't get edited to Friday night, and I post them and have them go live Saturday morning, sometimes Saturday afternoon if I have to. But you know, it's fun. I enjoy doing it, so I appreciate everything. If you guys can on Spotify, give it a star review, or rating I should say. Rate it whatever you feel is proper. If you can on Apple Podcasts, leave me a review and a rating on that as well, or leave a comment on one of the YouTube posts. I highly appreciate that. The links will all be down below in my Linktree post as well. There are links for the outro music by Blood Opera. Their fundraisers will be linked down below as well, probably. I'm assuming they're still live, but I'll check them out before posting. If not, then I'll just have links to their music in general post it. So if you guys can check them out, that'd be great as well.
Until next time, I'll talk to you guys all later. Peace. Whisper in the classroom, the writing on the wall. What's blood for, if not for the shedding?
You used to play that childhood game. Was it for real this time, or a dream? Was it in my